What's up, everybody? Here we go. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. We're live here on the program once again. And as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Really excited to dive into everything. The Niners and the Raiders literally just got off the practice field at the Raiders facility in Las Vegas. There is so much to react to, so we're going to do that. We're going to do a mailbag, as we always do, pass along some Niners news and analysis, and I want to chop it up with the faithful as well. So here is today's 49ers Report rundown on this Thursday, August 14th of 2025. We're going to talk Niners news, joint practice takeaways, kind of a mixed bag for San Francisco here today, and then we're going to round out with the mailbag. So start getting your questions in right now. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat because we're going to open up the floor and we're going to talk all things Niners here on the show. Producer Chip here is to my left. We have the Niner gang rocking and rolling with us from every pocket of America and worldwide. And a programming reminder, by the way, we're going to be live Saturday afternoon for preseason game number 2, Niners-Raiders. Kickoff is set for 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, and we just got word from head coach Kyle Shanahan that Brock Purdy and some Niners starters are going to play in this second preseason affair. That just adds a lot of juice to our watch party. If you've never been a part of one of our watch parties, best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. And as far as our mailbag call goes, again, start getting those questions in right now. I see a lot of comments coming in with already more than 100 people watching live. Joe Carmack, Christopher Green, Brandon R., CRX, Ernesto Thomas Gonzalez. If you include hashtag 49ers within your message, we'll get you on the mailbag. If you send in a super chat, you're guaranteed to get that question answered. And a super chat alert here. We're going to be competing against the Raiders Report on Saturday in a super chat battle. The work is cut out for us because our Raiders Report, they do nuts as far as their super chats. But since we can't do a pregame show on Saturday like we did for week 1, super chats today count towards our total on Saturday. So let's get it popping here. And if you're ready to talk some Niners, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Already about 120 people hanging out. We only have 11 likes. Are you kidding me? We should be able to get that number to 100 ASAP. So as you come in here, don't forget to hit that like button. The more likes that we get, the more people who find the stream and the more fun that we will have as we get some more people in here. So the official show about to get underway right now. Niners, Raiders, joint practice reaction as we start to get more news because Kyle Shanahan just spoke. Some players are speaking now. We'll be sure to relay that news as well. And then don't forget to use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. More likes, more people starting to come in here. So again, continue to hit that like button. And with that, let's start the official show live on the 49ers Report right now. Here we go. Let's talk some 49ers football. You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr. And as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. What we're getting into here, Niners and the Raiders just got off the practice field in Las Vegas, so we are doing a joint practice reaction. And the Raiders, now at that new stadium in Las Vegas, Allegiant, that's where the Niners unfortunately lost Super Bowl 58. They have that beautiful facility there, and their practice facility is also gorgeous. Really nice grass surface, and it was a hot one here today. By the time that the Niners got off the practice field, it was hovering around 100 degrees. The high today in Vegas, 107. And so by design, it was a very early practice for San Francisco and Las Vegas. Kyle Shanahan and Pete Carroll, they know each other very, very well. They've had a lot of epic battles inside the NFC West when Carroll was the head coach of Seattle. Shanahan, of course, the head coach of the 49ers. So they know each other as far as their coaching tendencies, their coaching practices, how they go about game planning. They're both very good tacticians. Kyle Shanahan, offensive mind. Pete Carroll, offensive mind. And so it was good to see them clash once again in between the lines today. And then that will lead into the second preseason affair Saturday at Allegiant Stadium for San Francisco and Las Vegas. Before we dive into all of my joint practice takeaways, the Niners today making a couple of roster moves. So offensive tackle Andre Dillard has been placed on injured reserve. Defensive tackle Michael Dwumfor has been released. And the Niners currently are so thin along the defensive line. They just need bodies there, kind of like what's happened at the wide receiver position all throughout camp in the preseason. And so the Niners officially signing defensive lineman William Bradley King and also defensive lineman Damone Harris. And speaking of Andre Dillard, the backup offensive tackle position and the swing tackle spot for San Francisco is a huge problem. The Niners signed the former first-round pick in Andre Dillard to be their top backup offensive tackle this year. He missed the start of training camp due to an injury. The Niners activated him off the non-football injury list earlier this week. So much for that. Didn't even practice for San Francisco, and now he gets placed on IR. He's been dealing with like a foot and ankle injury all throughout this offseason. He got a surgery. He played last year with Green Bay. Prior to that with Tennessee, after he got a bag, he was awful. Former first-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, whose career was very up and down. To start his career, first-round pick out of Washington State, where he played under Mike Leach, and the Eagles had drafted him to most likely be a future Lane Johnson replacement because Lane Johnson at that time was dealing with a bunch of ankle issues, and Dillard was slow to develop. Then he was dealing with a lot of issues as far as his confidence, had some injuries here and there. Once he found his footing, played well, was going to be the starter at left tackle because he couldn't play right tackle, tore his biceps, came back, played well, got that bag from Tennessee, and was awful. But I was looking forward to seeing how the Niners could maybe maximize a player who is very physically gifted, who was taken in the first round, but now he's gone for the year. And so the backup offensive tackle spots in the hands of Spencer Burford and Austin Pleasants. I think Spencer Burford is too slow to play left tackle. We especially saw that in the preseason opener against Denver when Nick Bonito ate his lunch, and Austin Pleasants isn't strong enough or fast enough to be a quality backup tackle. So if Trent Williams or Colton McKivitz were to go down this year, Colby has been getting run with the ones. Today, he mixed in with the first team offense at left guard. Kyle Shanahan, very impressed with what he's been able to do, saying, quote, he's getting better each week. He's improved a lot the last couple of weeks. I saw he had a high Pro Football Focus grade against the Broncos, and I don't think it was too far off. He's played very well. So it's good that Colby is coming along well. At Iowa, 50 starts. He played left guard, right guard, and offensive tackle. His relative athletic score hovered around 9.8. He can really move. He's a very good zone blocker, probably a better pass blocker as of right now. And yeah, against Denver, he played well. So I like the way that that's trending, and maybe he could be the future left guard for San Francisco at a very affordable price. He's number 75 here. Number 55 is the UDFA out of Colorado State, Drew Moss, who, behind Connor Colby, who had the highest PFF grade among the offensive players on Saturday, had the second highest offensive grade. He, too, is coming along pretty well. He has some positional versatility. At Colorado State, played tackle. At the NFL level, he's going to play along the interior. He's making some strides at either guard, maybe center, so that's good. But unfortunately, it does not solve the question marks that San Francisco has at offensive tackle. As for some more injury news here for the Niners, Nick Bosa did not participate in the joint practice today due to back soreness. And because of that, as we're about to discuss, this Niners defensive line really struggled to penetrate against a bad Raiders offensive line. And they weren't good against the run, and Ashton Jeanty, they couldn't really generate pressure on Geno Smith or any of the Raiders quarterbacks either. And coming up just around the corner, we're going to start to dive deeper into my joint practice reaction. What transpired today in Las Vegas? It's coming up just around the corner, but make sure you sub for Niners dubs. Hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round Niners coverage right here on the show. I think that what we do here is very special. I always want our content to be informative, insightful, thought-provoking, entertaining. I want you to have a voice, and I think people like that as well, which is why 164,446 people have subscribed to the show. Some offensive takeaways for the Niners here today. Brock Purdy had a lot of success throwing the ball. And Kyle Shanahan at head coach. You have a quarterback who you just gave $55 million to. You have Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, George Kittle. You used a first-round pick on Ricky Pearsall. And so they're going to have to help to keep this team in a spot where they can keep their heads above water, because on defense for the Niners, there's going to be a learning curve. A lot of young players are going to get significant snaps on the defensive side of the ball. And so it could get a little bit rocky, given we have to see a lot of player development, and Robert Saleh is going to try to figure out which players he wants to play on the defensive side of the ball. So while it could get a little bit sketchy there early on, this Niners offense has to produce. And they were the second most injured offense in the NFL last year. Despite that, the fourth best total offense in the NFL. Imagine what they can do if they can stay healthy. And so to find success throwing the ball downfield against a Raiders team that is going to hang its hat on defense because Pete Carroll is a defensive coach, that's a good sign. George Kittle saying after practice that on tape, what the Raiders are doing, very similar to the Legion of Boom days. Now, toward the end of Pete Carroll's tenure with Seattle, they struggled on defense, but it's been proven to be an effective defense. And against that Pete Carroll-led defense today, the Niners had some splash plays. Brock Purdy's deep ball really all throughout training camp has been on point. And I think this Niners offense this year could be a little bit faster, which could help Purdy, who has been statistically one of the top deep ball throwers in the NFL since he got drafted in 2022. Another positive development here, Ricky Pearsall continues to ball. He has had a dominant training camp. He's very specific about his game. He is a student of the game, and his health is the only thing that can hold him back. I think that if he could stay healthy this year, given the connection that he's had with Purdy, the game that he has, how Kyle Shanahan with his play designs is going to be able to cater towards Pearsall's strengths, I think that he can have a really good year. He caught a deep ball from Purdy here today. Also, the Purdy-Kittle connection has been alive all throughout camp. And I think with the trade of Deebo Samuel, having question marks at wide receiver, that makes Kittle's presence more important this year. And I want to emphasize that because I think Kittle becomes more a part and more of a component of this pass game. And since Purdy has come in, Kittle's numbers have been incredible. That's why he's been an All-Pro each of the last 2 years. Also today, Christian McCaffrey was involved a lot running it and catching the ball out of the backfield. He continues to look more so like the Offensive Player of the Year that we saw in 2023 physically. Jeff Wilson, who was with this team from 2018 to 2022, who's traded away. Once Christian McCaffrey got acquired to the Miami Dolphins, he got some running the ball for this Niners offense today. Tariq Owens had a nice one-on-one win where he was able to beat his DB, and he continues to develop. Probably more of a practice squad candidate, but an intriguing practice squad candidate. His pops, Terrell Owens, one of the top 5 wide receivers of all time. Kyle Juszczyk caught a 20-yard touchdown pass from Brock Purdy, and we kind of expected this, right? The Niners really struggled to block Max Crosby. Max Crosby is one of the best defensive ends in all of football. A relentless pursuit, very physical. He is very fine-tuned with his pass rushing plan and his pass rushing arsenal. But this is also why I continue to voice my concerns with this Niners offensive line. Colton McKivitz may have improved from 2023 to 2024. Trent Williams didn't participate in the joint practice today. Veteran maintenance day for him. But when Colton McKivitz especially, or this Niners offensive line has to go up against a good defensive line and or great players, that's when they really struggle. Another takeaway from this joint practice today, you knew it was going to get chippy. Max Crosby on a podcast even said, when we meet up with the Niners, I'm looking forward to that. There could be some fights. The Raiders tried to start some fights. The Niners did not swing back. anytime these two teams meet, it gets hostile. It gets intense because this has been one of the best, most heated rivalries in the history of the NFL, because when it was Oakland against San Francisco, those two areas didn't like one another. Those two teams didn't like one another, and that led to a very physical matchup. This is a matchup that I wish we saw every single year, because it would make for a lot of drama, a lot of theater, and frankly, I think a lot of good football, because you can throw the records out of the window when the Niners and the Raiders meet up in between the lines. You know what type of game it's going to be, and that's a knock 'em out, drag 'em out, bloody knuckles type of affair. And I wish the NFL could do something where these two teams would meet every single regular season, because they do play every single preseason. All right, we'll talk some Niners defense coming up here in just a moment, but I want to tell you about this deal thanks to our fine friends at Fanatics. This Niners pull-off hoodie was $80. It is now on sale for just $48. You see the link down in the chat right now. Head to chatsports.com/Niners hoodie. Very rarely do you see a great product on sale discounted this much, from 80 down to 48. Chatsports.com/Niners hoodie. Use that link, and if you do use that link, that discount will apply. We talked some Niners defense here, and again, like offensively, it was kind of a mixed bag. Defensively, a little bit of a mixed bag. The Niners defensive line really struggled to stop the run and generate pressure on the quarterback. Context, obviously, is always really important. No Michael Williams. CJ West today, the rookie 4th-round pick out of Indiana, hyperextended his knee. Very similar injury to what happened to Michael last week. So you're without Michael Williams. You have no Nick Bosa. CJ West got hurt. You've suffered injuries along that defensive line. No Sam Okawanu, no Kevin Givens. And so you have a lot of players up front who are not going to make this 53-man roster. And because of that, this Niners defensive line didn't really show up today. But again, context very important. On the bright side, All-Pro Fred Warner looked amazing. He landed the biggest hit of practice, and the matchup of Fred Warner going up against Brock Bowers, that is elite versus elite. That is great versus great. And that's two of the best players at their respective positions going one-on-one. The Niners defense did give up a lot of big plays, whether it be via the ground game for Las Vegas or the pass game. So the offense for the Niners, a lot of big plays downfield. The defense also gave up a lot of big plays. And Ashton Jeanty, the 7th overall pick out of Boise State, really talented running back, did pop a nice long run. And let me just emphasize this again. Going into 2025, this 49ers offense is going to have to carry the load. It's a pretty experienced unit on that side of the ball, all things considered. Plus, you have one of the top offensive minds in football in Kyle Shanahan calling the plays and designing the offense. You just paid your quarterback $55 million. You have George Kittle, all-world tight end. Trent Williams, one of the top offensive tackles. Christian McCaffrey, one of the most dynamic players in all of football on offense. And so even with all of the injuries that the Niners suffered last year, number 2 most injured offense in football, they were still the 4th best total offense in the NFL. But then you look on defense. Yes, you bring back Robert Saleh. And in that preseason opener against Denver, I thought he was creative, aggressive, and exotic. But John Lynch even said it prior to the year. There's going to be some bumps along the road because San Francisco is so young on the defensive side of the ball. And so early on in the year, I don't expect this Niners defense to be as good as they are hopefully at the end of it. So in the meantime, as the Niners defense catches up, as they gather more experience, as Robert Saleh figures out who he wants to play there, it's the Niners offense that will have to produce for San Francisco, because I think getting off to a faster start, very paramount, especially when you have the easiest schedule in the NFL in 2025. Big picture, I do think this defense for the Niners could be legit. Yes, you still have Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Deommodore Lenoir, but outside of that, it is a serious youth movement for the Niners on that side of the ball. Some more promising news here for San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan saying after the practice today that Brock Purdy and some of the starters are expected to play on Saturday against the Raiders. That just gives us some juice for a preseason game that sometimes doesn't have a lot of hype, but of course we'll be live for it right here on the 49ers Report. More news that I want to get to here. Kyle Shanahan said Christian McCaffrey moving just as fast as he was during 2023 training camp. CMC even hit 25 miles per hour on his GPS chip. Beyond that, Brock Purdy on Christian McCaffrey, mentally, he's on one right now. I can imagine Christian McCaffrey very motivated to flush what happened in 2024, where he played 4 games, bilateral Achilles tendonitis, had a knee issue, and then once he came back, he didn't look the same, and then he only played those 4 games and did not score a touchdown. Even though they are sidelined, Purdy says he asks Ayuk and Jawan Jennings what they see on certain routes after practice every day. Purdy saying, those are my guys. George Kittle knew that Max Crosby was going to try to get a little bit chippy. Jordan Watkins, high ankle sprain, no walking boot as he recovers from that injury. That's a good sign. Defensive back Upton Stout, watched practice, looked pretty good, walking without a limp. He has a calf injury. And then some other injury news. Jason Pinnock, Trey Brown, both have heel injuries. And so the Niners' first-team safeties, rookie Marquise Siegel, third-year player Jair Brown. For Bosa, it's neck soreness. Some people were saying it's back soreness, but to confirm that, it is neck soreness for him. Ben Barch has an elbow injury. So again, it was Connor Colby, Nick Sakel rotating in. First-team left guard for San Francisco. And that kind of does it on the injury front. McCaffrey, Kittle looking ready for week 1, and that's a great sign for this Niners team. Don't forget to give me a follow on X and Instagram. I talk Niners every single day right here on YouTube, but I'm also always giving you additional free Niners content on X at Chase_Senior and Instagram at Chase_Senior. Millions of viewers per month here on YouTube, millions of people per month on social media as well. All right. Joint practice reaction accomplished. We can check that box. Bang, bang, Niner gang. What we're going to do next, take your questions for a mailbag. So we have more than 300 people watching live. If you have a question about the Niners, if you have a hot take on the Niners, get your questions in, and within your comment, use hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Also, with this many people watching live, 65 likes. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon. Like the video. Let's get the stream to 100 likes.
Let's go.
ASAP. Chip, how we doing with the questions, my man?
We got 4 good questions. I think 2 more solid questions.
Okay.
We'll be good to go. But shout out to Greedy Greg coming in with 2 good questions. Ryan Thomas, Joe Carmack as well in there. So we could use a couple more. So again, hashtag 49ers. In your comment, use that within your comment, within your question. That way we can get the question on the show. If you don't use the hashtag, can't get it on the show. Super chat as well. We will answer that at the start of the mailbag.
Yep. Really looking forward to chopping it up, talking Niners with everybody. So again, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat to get your questions on the show. By the way, can't do a pregame show for our watch party on Saturday, but we are going to be in a super chat battle with the Las Vegas Raiders Report. So our super chats today, I made a deal with our Raiders Report host, Mitchell Renz, are going to count toward our total on Saturday. So if you send in a super chat, we're going to do a nice little battle there on Saturday. It goes toward that watch party since I can't do a pregame show on Saturday. All right, get those questions in. I see a couple more coming in. Team Moist, nice. Johnny Clucks using hashtag 49ers. Ray Franco, I love what you said there. Defense is going to be fire, but use the hashtag 49ers, my man. Looking good? All right. That's a good sign. All right. We'll get our mailbag going here. Again, hashtag 49ers. Send in a super chat. Get those questions in. Now let's get our mailbag going right now. Here we go. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Coming up on the show, really excited to dive into all of your questions as we open up the floor for a Niners Report mailbag. You have questions, I have answers, and also what we'll do is pass along some of your hot takes and your analysis as well. And be sure to lock us in and hit that subscribe button so that you can be a part of our mailbags as well. I always like chopping it up with the faithful, and since the Niners will be playing the Raiders in preseason game number 2, Niners expected to play some of their starters, including quarterback Brock Purdy, we are doing a sub-battle. This is a great rivalry in the NFL. It's a great rivalry inside the walls here at Chat Sports. And so since we flipped the page to August, the Niners Report has picked up 626 new subscribers. The Raiders Report has gained, right on the nose, 1,000 new subscribers. Let's close this gap by month's end. Let's get the victory, take down the Raiders Report, hit that sub button for daily shows on San Francisco. Greedy Greg 415 gets us started with this question here. What's it looking like with Jawan Jennings? So earlier this week, there was the report from Tim Kawakami that the Niners and JJ are not close to getting a contract done. And a big reason for that, San Francisco doesn't believe that the timing is right. They gave Jennings a new deal going into last year, and while he's going into the final year of his contract in 2025, that deal was signed by Jennings going into 2024. And also, I think the Niners are a little bit gun-shy, especially with big money deals at the wide receiver spot, given what happened with Brandon Ayuk. How he handled the situation, talking about BA, him getting hurt early in the year, and people inside the Niners organization are said to have immediately regretted paying Brandon Ayuk. And so I think the Niners want to go with the wait-and-see approach with Jawan Jennings. And I can see where they're coming from, right? JJ, prior to last year, had not had a single season in which he had more than 500 receiving yards before he had 975 in 2024. He needed so many players to get hurt for him to finally have that breakout year. And while I think that he has outplayed what the Niners have paid him throughout his rookie contract and that newer deal, the Niners have some ammunition on their side. It's like, hey, can you produce for more than 1 year to ask for whatever you're asking for? I do think for San Francisco, they could get away with paying Jennings, who I think can be a really good number 2, $11 to $15 million. And that would be a great value deal for a player who's been incredibly clutch, who last year showed he can be a really good number 2 wideout, who has a good connection working with Brock Purdy, who time and time again in the biggest of games has always stepped up for this team. And sometimes you can't quantify that with an asking price, with a contract. And so what I would do, I'd say, JJ, we'll give you a short-term contract extension, $11 to $15 million per year. If you want more than $15 million per year, not paying you. You can play out the remainder of your deal and prove to everybody else that you're worth what you're asking for. Jennings also took to social media prior to the Niners joint practice against the Raiders on Thursday to post a photo of him in the training room in Las Vegas getting his leg worked on. And so hopefully he's getting close to returning to the field, and maybe the Niners just want to see if Jennings can stay healthy, because the calf injury that he has now was a re-aggravated injury from the spring. And we know what can happen to calf injuries. It can lead to a disaster. Joe Carmack, yo, I'm here. How are the 49ers guys like Cowing and Green looking? And who is going to be our tight end 3? So Jacob Cowing just returned to practice, but in a limited capacity. In the spring, Kyle Shanahan said he was one of the most impressive players as far as being prepared, growth year over year, and what he was doing on the field. Cowing in college was a very productive player. Transferred to Arizona, had an uptick in competition, and that didn't keep him from being productive. He has 4.4 speed. He has some wiggle to his game. I think the Niners can use him in a way where he can be a gadget guy, bubble screens, let him pick up yards after the catch, get some blockers out in front for him. End arounds, reverses, but he also has speed to take the top off of the defense. You can also use him on crossers because he is fast and talented in the open field. But he got hurt the very first day of training camp running routes against air. So we haven't seen anything from him since. Maybe he plays in this preseason game, although I'd be surprised by that because Niners don't want him to re-aggravate that hamstring. As far as Renardo Green, he's going to be the starting outside corner opposite of Diamador Lenore. And in the practice where he hurt his hamstring as well, he had 3 pass breakups. Struggled a little bit in the spring going up against Jawan Jennings, but then started to turn the corner, and in classic Niners fashion, then he got hurt. But I'm a believer in Renardo Green's game. He got 7 starts last year. Even when he was a rotational player, I thought he played very, very well. Yo, Black Mask chiming in with the $100 super chat. Good to hear from a legend once again. Thank you, my man. Been a while. That Jawan Jennings injury is BS. In my opinion, he's playing a game. Awesome football is back. I don't need a hat or anything else from you. I've received enough. Debo and BA each only had 1 year and got paid. Mistake. So Debo Samuel had 1 year in his career of more than 1,000 yards. That was in 2021 when he was a first-team All-Pro. Incredible year. He was the MVP of that squad that made it to the NFC Championship game. They don't turn around their season after that 3-5 start, nor do they make it that far without Debo. And you have a good point there because he had and has had 1 great year. Other than that, has been injured a lot, and he got a bag. For Brandon Ayuk, I disagree. He showed improvement. He got better year over year each year, and he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And he was a second-team All-Pro in 2023. Great weapon for Brock Purdy. More of a complete wideout than Debo. Footwork, route running, ability to beat man. Debo, never been able to beat man. Good hands. Great route tree, unlike Debo, who is very limited in that regard. And so I always said if the Niners had to keep one, I would keep Ayuk. And I think that has aged pretty well outside of the injury. As far as Jawan Jennings goes, he posted the photo of him in the training room getting rehab. And I think for a player who has no financial security beyond 2025, you got to tread lightly with the calf injuries, especially if he hurt it after hurting it in the spring. And you can see where Jennings is coming from too. Like, I see both sides here. Why the Niners are hesitant, why Jennings wants to get paid. He's outplayed what the Niners have paid him. But go out there and prove it. Sometimes you just have to do that. And I think the Niners are just tired of players bullying them in these contract negotiations. And I wish that players would handle it more like Brock Purdy did, Fred Warner did, George Kittle did. No drama at all. Who you got on Saturday night? Great rivalry game between the Niners and the Raiders. Type SF for San Francisco, LV for Las Vegas. Ryan, next up. Will Russell Gage be a starter week 1? This is a good question. Russell Gage has had a really good training camp. I want to see how he looks in the preseason, especially catching passes from Brock Purdy, because with injuries at that position, he could very well start week 1. You're not going to have Brandon Ayuk. Who knows if you'll have Jawan Jennings? Who knows if Jacob Cowing is going to be ready? And so Russell Gage, without Jordan Watkins too, might have to start for San Francisco in week 1. He had been a pretty productive player prior to that 2022 injury when he hurt his knee. He's back to being himself as far as health and the player who he once was when he had back-to-back 700-plus yard receiving seasons. And he's a cheap player. Obviously, the Niners would be thrilled if he can end up being productive for how affordable he is. And I do kind of like his game. So Russell Gage, yeah, might be a starter in week 1. Team Moist, nice username. Have they thought about getting a new training staff? So they just brought in a new training staff and head of strength and conditioning going into last year. So, look, they play a physical brand of football. Kyle Shanahan's practices are famously very hard and physical. That outside zone scheme, you're beating up, playing bully ball against the opponent. And that can have some pluses. I mean, remember in 2023, each team that played the Niners the following week pretty much lost because they were beaten up. But look, when you've been top 10 in injury rate every year under Kyle Shanahan since 2017, you got to try to get to the root cause. Like, at some point, it's not injury bad luck. At some point, it has to be your approach, how you're training, and all that stuff. So it annoys me like it annoys everybody. Johnny Clucks, any news on Jake Moody? Apparently, he went 7 of 7 yesterday, but I would have liked to see him more against Denver, just not any chances for him. Yeah, I know the Niners have had a lot of injuries elsewhere on the 90-man. I still would have kept Greg Joseph. I mean, if you know that a fourth-string defensive tackle is not going to make your team, find a way to make the drills work. Because kicker is a problem, kicker is a concern, and Jake Moody needs to get tested. And then, in a live game situation, when the pressure is on with fans, with eyeballs watching, Jake Moody could not attempt a single field goal in the preseason opener. Now, yes, during Wednesday's practice, you allude to those numbers, 7 of 7. Great. But Jake Moody isn't a bad practice kicker. In actual games, that's when he struggles. You just need to see if he can be your guy, because you can't afford him to cost you a game or multiple games this year when all of this was very avoidable. Ray Franco, you think Christian McCaffrey will be okay if we have a playoff run? I think so. And then I think the Niners need to manage his workload a little bit. I think you can, because Isaac Rendo, once he comes back, has a lot of juice. You drafted Jordan James in the 5th round. I know Kyle Shanahan has said Christian McCaffrey is his own worst enemy because he never wants to come out. But Christian, if you want to have a long career, if you want to stay healthy, gotta manage the carries a little bit. He has missed 10 or more games in 3 of the last 5 years. He was healthy after the trade in 2022 and before the trade for Carolina. He was incredible. 2023, Offensive Player of the Year, first team All-Pro, top 5, MVP voting. But he's starting to get a little bit older. We know how running backs age. And with that injury history and talent at the wide receiver spot or running back spot, and in this offense, when Kyle Shanahan has had a productive rushing attack, be careful about how much you're giving McCaffrey the rock. And if he's on the field sometimes, use him as a decoy, split back, slot receiver. There are ways that you can get around this. Vlad the Impala. Krug has the Niners with 7 receivers on the 53 with Ayuk on IR, and who knows what Jennings' deal is. Bergen, technically a wide receiver, but will be a pure special teamer. How do you see it? So, initial 53. And by the way, with that question we got earlier, with Russell Gage starting, is Demarcus Robinson going to get suspended? That's a possibility. But he's going to be on the initial 53. And so you'll have Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings. You'll have Jacob Cowing, I would imagine. Did I mention Demarcus Robinson? Demarcus Robinson. I don't know if Jordan Watkins is going to start the year on PUP, but let's try to do a number crunch here. So starting week 1, initial 53. Pearsall, Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins, Russell Gage, Jacob Cowing. That's 6. And if the Niners are impressed by Junior Bergen and they want him as a return specialist, he would be your 7th. So I think those numbers make sense. Ayuk starts the year on PUP. He doesn't count toward the 53. And then once he comes back, you'll have a decision to make. Now, this is also something that is worth mentioning, that you can have a wide receiver on practice squad and elevate them up to the active roster on game day. And so that's a way to pull off roster gymnastics too. But a good question for sure. I do think Robinson will get suspended though. Maybe a couple games. Maybe his suspension gets delayed. Who knows? Rashee Rice going to be able to play at least the first 4 games for Kansas City. Then after that, he might get suspended. Jordan Addison, 3-game suspension to start the year as he got caught speeding. So I have no idea what the NFL's decision is going to be. You know what I know your decision should be? Subscribing to the channel so that you can have some great Niners content right here on YouTube coming your way every single day, and so that you can be a part of our mailbag. Thanks for watching. Black Mass.
Woo!
San Francisco. He makes it rain with the $100 super chat. We, of course, answered that question earlier on in the mailbag. But good to hear from Black Mask once again. Thank you so much for that super chat. Thanks to everybody who got those questions in for our mailbag. That was awesome. In case you're just joining the show, we've been hovering around 300 people watching live. Already did our Niners-Raiders joint practice reaction. We did our mailbag, and we're about to sign off. Here's what we'll do. I'll put up the 2-minute super chat shot clock. And if we get super chats within 2 minutes, we'll stay live and we'll answer your questions. If not, we'll dip on out, and then we'll see you on Saturday live again for our watch party. Let's see. Samuel Zuckerman likes the Niners to win on Saturday. Sacred Intuition, Salah been better than Kyle so far. Like, based on what, though? I really like what Salah did on Saturday. Creative, exotic, aggressive, using players like Chase Lucas to be a weapon on defense. You saw the defense playing decisive, confident football. That wasn't the case last year for Sorensen. Jeffrey, come on, Niners. You need a kicker, not Moody. He may cause you some. Very important game. Let's go, Niners. Johnny C. I don't think Kyle was calling a lot of the plays. He was not. Kubiak was. Anthony, our season is going into the brink. Robert Saleh's defense will be on the field constantly. He won't be able to keep up with the poor offense. See, that's why I think the offense has to carry the load. It's the offense that's going to have to carry the load for this defense as they start to get caught up. Because, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for that unit. Niners all damn day. We want Lance. Haha. You had him. Looking good for the Chargers, I will say. 10 seconds left on the 2-minute super chat shot clock. The 49ers 2025. What's up, Chase? Dillard is out for the year. Yes. Talked about that a little bit earlier. Wide receiver prod. Kittle is the GOAT. For Niners tight ends, he's the GOAT. Best tight end of all time in franchise history. Angelica Pena, your boy Raiders report in the other room talking smack about you in the other room, Chase. Oh, I know. I was in his wedding. So, if he's saying anything bad, I don't think he's being serious. Kind of tongue-in-cheek there. But yes, we will be having some good super chat battles between us and the Raiders report. Going to be a lot of fun. Is Mitch even live right now? He's not even live right now.
Wow.
He'll be live a little bit later, though. All right. We're going to sign off. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Black Mask, you're our Super Chat MVP today and our top fan. Thank you for the $100 Super Chat. Again, we'll be live again Saturday. Niners, Raiders, Chase and Chip. Obviously, plenty of content to come in the lead up to that game and every day. For Chip, I'm Chase. For the faithful, we're out. See ya.